Hey guys, tonight we're going to go over the Axial strengthening tubes. We produce these for the Axial Ryft rbx10. These tubes go in the ID of the Axial tubes to strengthen them up because we all know we have a little bit of problems with our machines we bought. So I'm going to go through the installation process and how these work, and should be pretty simple, but let's go ahead and do this. Let's have some fun. So I have the front axle already tore off the machine, a front axle here. To assemble this or to install it, you have to pull out the outers. So you pull out your outer hub with the axle with it, and take that out, set it off to the side. Go to the passenger side of the vehicle, which is our trouble side of the vehicle, as we all know. Take the screws out of your lower link bracket, because those screws are through screws, and they go through the inside of the axle tube and go through the brace also. So go ahead and take those out. Take your little bracket off, which is right there. Do that. Pull your screws out of the outer C-hub. And this all comes off as an assembly. And this is the best way I found to do this. Go ahead and take the screws out of that. And take your outer hub assembly, which is right there. Pull that out with the axle. And maybe we can get the bearing to come out with it. And there's the bearing with it. As you see, you get the bearing inside of here. We'll take it out here in a minute. So you get your bare axle here, then you pull your center diff out. So we can work that back and forth and pull them bearings out of the axle tube. So take your whole center diff out. There's your center diff. That leaves us with the plastic housing. And you know our breakage problem is coming right through this area here, even up into here sometimes. It's all over the place, but it's concentrated right in this area. So what we did, we worked on this brace here, which is going to go just like this, but on the inside. And what that does, that backs up everything, all the breakage issues, and we line it with 6061 T6 aluminum. Again, there's our tubes we're going to put in there. So now we got this all stripped right here. We go ahead and grab our strengthening tube, insert it with these slots. The first set of slots, you want to be horizontal with the ground. The second slots, you actually want to be vertical because of the way this bolts back together. So we take our horizontal holes like this. I do have it turned so you can see it better with the light. Go ahead and slide that tube in to the axle housing. We have about 1.5 to 2 thousandths clearance on this tube. We keep on pushing this in. As you can see, I'm inserting it. You can see it coming through the inside. There's the holes. And what I do next is, actually I forgot a step, but what I do next is insert the outer bearing. And that sets the tube on the depth on how far it's going to need to go into the axle housing. This bearing here, it seats on the inside of the axle housing. There's a plastic race in there and it has to push tight against that. So we push it all the way in, and there's our strengthening tube on the inside. And when I permanently install this, I will coat the whole outside of this with epoxy. The whole outside, except of course for the holes where the bolts go through. I'll coat that with epoxy, and when I slide it in, that way it actually makes a 1-to-1 bond with the housing itself. So once we have that inserted, we have the bearing put back in. We can install our center diff. Put him back in there like so. Pop them bearings into their races and make sure it lines up with our pinion. It's always fun when you're doing this on camera. There we go. Helps if you put it in straight. Our clearance here, we're about 40 to 60 thousandths of clearance between our tube and our actual carrier for our differential, which is right there. Hopefully we can see it on the camera. Once that's in, go ahead and take your outer housing, insert that back through the bearing with your axle. You line up your upper. Once it gets close to the carrier, you spin your axle until the axle lines up with the carrier slot, and press that all the way in, like so. You can see our through holes there, where it lines up through the tube. These holes also line up. You take your lower link mount bracket, put it back on, like so. Take your lower link mount bolts, add it in there. Add the top one in there. These always fit well. Grab your Allen wrench. believe this is, yeah, this is 2.5. These are always fun to screw in by hand. I don't have the fancy DeWalt tool yet. We'll be getting that next. Screw those in all the way. I'll do one for an example. We'll get the other one snug. At least put them in, get them started. Or I might just finish it all the way up. What the heck? It's only YouTube time. Sorry for shaking the camera with that, guys. Put those screws in, tighten them up. Take your upper bolts for your outer. This is your outer housing. Remember, we took this off all as one assembly with the axle. Slide the bolts from the top down. When you're putting these all the way in, there is 2 lock nuts that fit inside of this recessed cavity right there. You have to put those back in, then that's what the bolts actually lock into. Everything is sandwiched. This is a really cool design, as in the through axle design, because it's actually really strong. Besides our little fracture point, but the actual through bolting is probably one of the best designs there is as far as that goes. I'll put these screws back in, start tightening them up. And tight. So this is a great time to have one of the power tools, but switching screws. Tighten him all the way up. Once that's all done, tire tighten, guys, sorry. Differentials here, the axle housings here. You see it's now locked in. There is our actual tube. It goes all the way to the diff, except for about, like I said, we're about a millimeter and a half, which is 60 thousandths clearance in there. But that's how we're going to strengthen up these axle tubes on the Ryfts. Hope you guys enjoyed the video, and let me know. Thank you.